What happens when the very thing that defines you gets taken away? Imagine you're a surgeon, decades of training, thousands of procedures, a lifetime of identity built around healing others, and then suddenly you break your dominant surgical arm. Who are you now? Today's conversation isn't just about aging, it's about identity, about expansion, and about what happens when life forces us to stop. And in that stillness, we discover we were meant to become even more. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. Today, I am speaking with Dr. Durga Larkin. Drawing on decades as a board-certified ophthalmic physician and surgeon, Dr. Durga brings a rare blend of medical expertise and soulful insight to her work. Her unique perspective invites others to view aging as a deepening, a time to reconnect with purpose, rediscover inner strength, and live with greater authenticity and joy. She writes about these themes in her new book, Timeless Vision: Empowered Aging Redefined. Based in Rhode Island, Dr. Durga specializes in advanced cataract surgery and has devoted her career to helping people see more clearly, both in the literal and the personal sense. Through her writing, speaking, and conversations with readers, she offers a gentle, wise presence that inspires others to embrace their next chapter with openness, vitality, and renewed confidence. Dr. Durga, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. I'm happy to be here.
So, as I began reading your book, I was thinking a lot about my dad. My dad has been a practicing optometrist for 60 years.
Oh.
And when he was 84, he sold his practice to a younger optometrist and then worked for his new boss, as he called him, for 2 years, half time. And now at 87, he is still working a half day a week. And when he's not doing that, he's taking painting classes and doing ceramics and taking classes. And I just thought it was a wonderful metaphor of, well, aspects of what you do in your own career and also what you are arguing for in the aging process.
Absolutely. He sounds like a good example of someone who is sort of making the best of their aging process and is living their best life and not allowing age to hold them back in terms of what they want to do. So, yeah.
Right up your alley, and right up your alley and your life. And how did this hit you? Right? Like, was this a moment or a like sequential events or accumulative events that gave you pause on your own life and this work that came out of it?
Well, that's a good question. It really was not a specific moment. It was a gradual realization about the fact that there's more to vision than just physical vision, that we have a physical vision and we also have an inner vision, a vision about how we see life and how we perceive things. And it was really organic, if you will, where the gradual realization that I had there was this whole other aspect to vision and that I really enjoyed thinking about it and talking with patients about it. It didn't happen overnight. It was through the years I started to realize, wow, that's one of the aspects of medicine that I really love. And another aspect that made me really think of it was, as medicine is changing, we are being more pressured to see more patients and spend less time with each patient. And I realized that was really impacting my relationship with them, because that was an important aspect of my practice, was that I really enjoyed connecting with them and talking about their lives with my patients, and talking to them about living their best lives. So as we come to a time in medicine where we are being restricted in terms of how much time we can spend with patients, it actually made me realize how important that aspect of my practice was.
Mm.
And yeah, so
Yeah. Well, and that reminded me of you mentioning that you originally thought about going into psychiatry
yes.
because of your just interest in the layers
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
being human,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
also, found a more what should we say, went towards a specialty in medicine that is a bit less abstract and more clear in many ways. But the full circle moment is you started to use that same interest, those same skills
Yeah.
in your current practice, as you were really wanting to learn more about your patients well beyond their visual acuity and their cataracts.
Absolutely. And I hadn't really thought about it until recently. And that term is perfect, is a full circle moment, or that phrase. And um, because that is really something that I love, is the layers of people, and how we are as humans. We're just so complex, and it's actually so fascinating to me. And it really adds a whole layer of sort of interest to me in terms of the work that I do. And particularly with cataract surgery, you're not really given a lot of time to talk with people or learn about them. So I really had to actively work to give myself that time with people, because that was part of what was making my career fulfilling for me.
Hmm. You write that your book is not about eyesight, it's about insight.
Yes.
I love
Mm,
that. I
yes.
love that.
Yeah.
And it seems to me there was a parallel process going on, or is going on,
Yeah.
about your own journey
Yep.
as you are guiding your patients in theirs.
Exactly. So as I am guiding my patients in their journey, I'm just turned 65 recently. So as I was entering into my 60s, more people started asking me, both friends, family, and patients, what my plans were for the future. And I had friends that were starting to retire. A number of my colleagues were retiring. And so people were asking, was I planning to retire? And they wanted to make sure I was going to be available for them to do their surgery. So it, even though I have no immediate intentions to retire, it did get me thinking about, what am I going to do in this next phase of life? I am not going to operate forever. Now, a lot of physicians, and particularly certain fields, really lend themselves towards this, and ophthalmology and optometry really lend themselves towards being able to work in the office even into your 80s and 90s. And I do know a number of uh, optometrists and ophthalmologists that have done that. Um, but certainly, then it's a different level of stress. You choose your own hours. Um, I also realized that so it got me thinking about, what am I going to be doing? And I also realized I'm not a golfer, I'm not a pickleball player, and I really do love feeling that I'm helping others. And is there a way, maybe in addition to being in the office, that I can do things that I love? And what is that I love? So I went on a journey myself to start thinking about, what is it that I love to do in addition to medicine? Um, and that's how I connected up with Peggy McCall, because she
Yes.
is a life coach, manifestation coach. She also is an author, New York Times bestselling author. And so that's how my relationship started with her, was myself saying, okay, if I'm asking patients to sort of look inward and be their best selves, I need to do the same thing.
Yes,
So, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And you quote Dr. Peggy. I love this quote. Your soul is not aging, it's awakening.
yes,
And that's
yes,
just fascinating as I continue to age, and let's just say, I guess, awaken. With that aging is there's the wisdom that comes with lived experience, right? So there's parts of, as you write about, there's parts of our brain that as we get older, the processing might get a little slower. The short term memory might not
yeah,
be as sharp. The working memory might drop down a little bit. However, there is an increase in other aspects of
exactly.
our brain and our memory,
Right.
of resilience, of this wisdom, of this perspective. And there's
Yes.
only one way to get it, and that's by like living long enough.
And it's interesting, even before I did this book, I just felt that intuitively, and I started using the term wisdom when I would be talking about the children. I would joke that I was the source of wisdom for them. But when I really started writing my ideas down and then doing some research in terms of like, okay, is this just something I'm feeling intuitively, or is this something that they've actually shown? And they've actually shown that parts of our brain, such as wisdom and that lived experience, you can't get it any other way than getting older and living through it. And that actually parts of our brain function better than a younger person's because of that. And sort of, again, that intuition, or maybe a better being able to handle a stressful situation because of that lived experience that you have, that can allow you to see it from a different perspective.
Hmm. Then there's identity.
Identity,
Who we
key,
are, who we think we are, right? The stories we tell
huge.
about ourselves about who we are.
Yes.
Um, I know you asked yourself the question that I have found myself at different times in my life asking as well, the
Yeah.
who am I? And for me it comes back to, well, I'm a psychologist, and I'm an author, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a director, and a podcast, so all these things,
Right.
and you have your own version.
Exactly.
And when we dig, it can get kind of scary when we
Right.
go, like, those things feel comfortable for a very long time. Those titles feel really comfortable for a long time until they don't.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a huge thing, is that and that is, uh, enhanced by the way society looks at us. Like, we develop it's not just ourselves that we call ourselves, but society sees us in a certain role. So we live, breathe those roles. But that's why when people go through retirement or they start to feel very burnt out, they have such difficulty seeing anything beyond the role, because it's what they've lived and breathed and sort of slept and ate their whole for years and years. And part of being human is we don't like change. And in fact, this was another interesting thing when I was doing my research, found that they've actually physiologically we don't like change. We are wired to like stability, to like the same thing. And even if it's getting uncomfortable for us, we choose that discomfort if it's familiar to us,
Hmm.
rather than uh, rather than change. And so we fear transitions. It really stresses us out. And so part of my message, if you will, is trying to change our perspective and seeing change and seeing transitions as opportunities to expand, rather than
Hmm.
something that is bad or something to be feared, or uh, diminishing us.
Hmm. um, I often talk about it with clients as familiar misery, right? Like
Yeah.
we stay in
Yeah.
this familiar, even if it's miserable, but it's what we know.
It's what we know. Yes.
So with your transformation, transition. You
Yeah.
were looking at, well, people were talking to you like, what are you going to do next? And,
Right.
like that age of 65, which
Yes.
I mean, I
It's a
know like
landmark. Yes.
it's that age because of,
It's that age. Yes.
different markers that come with subsidies and benefits.
Right.
But I think we
Yes.
gotta move that. So that was happening. So who am I if I'm not a surgeon? Your girls grown up and they don't need the same sort of full time mom.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that so and then you tell me before we went on a whole another layer to have you question who you
Yeah.
are, and
Yes.
that's your lead in to tell everyone
Yes.
what you've been dealing with.
Right. So what happened was I was writing this book and I was still saying, okay, thinking about, okay, now I'm becoming an author and sort of a messenger of sort of optimism for people with aging. And then what happened is I had a severe injury back in December. I fell down some slippery back steps as I was racing off to work. And I fractured my right arm, which is my not only my dominant arm and dominant hand, but it's my surgery hand and my surgery arm. So, as a surgeon, one of the worst injuries to have is a fracture of your dominant hand or wrist or arm. And that's what happened. All of a sudden, this incident challenged my whole identity of who am I? Am I a surgeon if I'm not doing surgery? And I went through a very deep sort of introspective time where it really made me dig deep about who am I? Am I still a surgeon if I'm not operating? I think one of the things I realized, and this is partly because of the type of work I'm in, but there is this aspect that once you're a physician, you always think of yourself as a physician, even if you're not actually seeing patients. You embrace that identity.
Yeah, you are
But
Dr. Durga,
I'm
regardless.
Dr. Durga, yes, yes. But it really, all of a sudden, I had to think about what happens if I can't do my surgery again. People have injuries and they no longer can do the job that they've been doing for years. And it's not just a job, it's a whole identity. And so, what do I do in that circumstance? And for me, I had a blessing in disguise because it was right at the time when I was bringing my book to publication. The publishers had set a deadline for January, and I realized if I hadn't been out with this injury, I would not have been able to make the deadline.
Mm.
So I was really trying to find the good in it all. And also, all of a sudden, I had a lot of time to rest and reflect, time that I had not had before. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make the best of this injury that I had that is sort of identity threatening, if you will. And I have actually come out on the other end. I'm coming back to work soon. Um, and it's actually given me a sense of inner peace. It's like, okay, I can make choices. I can do this for as long as I want, and then I can choose not to do it if I don't want. And the world doesn't end. I just may spend my time doing other things. And so then it brings me back to, okay, what are those things that I want to be spending my time doing?
Hmm.
And uh, and one of the things is things like this. I love talking about not just my book, but about the message of, um, you know, that we should look at aging with optimism and enthusiasm and get excited about it rather than be fearful of it. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
feel that's exciting me. And I feel like, okay, I really do want to put myself into this.
So who did you learn you are beneath the
Okay,
title?
well, so I realize that I am evolving. I am I still am Dr. Durga, and I'm still a surgeon and physician ophthalmologist, but I'm evolving into a broader version of myself. I'm an author, I'm a messenger, if you will, a source of wisdom and inspiration, hopefully, for people. And I'm this more expanded person. I feel like my role is more expanded rather than being um, defined as doctor and mother.
Hmm.
So it's actually been an exciting time, and people think it's crazy, but I feel like this injury was actually a gift from the universe in a way.
I totally see that because
Yeah.
most of us don't stop unless we are stopped,
That's
right?
it. The universe stopped me. It's
Yes. Yeah.
said,
Like, and
stop. You need to cool out and think a little bit.
yeah. And let's look at the message. This wasn't, well, you have pneumonia for like 2 weeks, or you know what,
Right.
you sprained your ankle or you broke your knee.
Yes.
You broke your surgical hand, right?
Exactly.
Like it's
Yes.
like
Right. If
it's
exactly. Yeah. It
um
stopped me in my path.
mhm,
Yeah, and I
literally.
really had to think very hard about what it meant. And I know it, and it's life changing. It's been life changing. And it's not the same as losing a spouse, or if someone has a medical diagnosis that is a life threatening. But some of these things, they aren't necessarily life threatening, but they can be really impactful in terms of how we think about ourselves and how we think about our lives, and how we think about what we're going to do and be in our future.
Mhm.
And I felt like it gave me permission to make a decision about, okay, yes, I'm deciding to do this right now. I'm deciding to continue to work, but that, okay, the life doesn't end when I don't do that. I can decide to do other things as well. So
Yeah, so expansive, so
it's
expansive. Like there's
expansive.
so much
Yeah.
more to you than you
Yes.
knew.
Yes.
And I believe you are saying this, and so I'm gonna try to put a light on this,
Yeah.
or maybe ask a question about this.
Mhm.
Did you, because those of us who are performers and those of us who are achievers, and especially those who go to lots of education and lots of
Yeah.
licensure and board certifications, there's lots of prizes along the way. They don't always feel like prizes, but they're markers, and then they
Mhm.
end up validating us for who we think we are.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
so that's the long way of saying, did you find value and worth in yourself for you beyond the Dr. Durga and all that comes with it?
Yes, that's an interesting question, because that was part of the gift, if you will, was that, wow, I am still, I've got a lot to give. I'm still a person who has a lot to offer this world, my family and myself. And I feel like, oh, I still want to do a lot of different things in my life that are, again, not instead of what I do in terms of work, but in addition to. And so I actually had a discussion with my daughters about that early on, when the orthopedist, had said to me, I don't know if you're going to be able to do surgery again. I had to think about it really hard and deep. And my daughter said, Mom, it would really be a huge change in your lifestyle not going into the office and being Dr. Larkin. At the office, I'm Dr. Larkin. Dr. Larkin, and the eye surgeon in South County. And it's, uh, can you adjust to that? Will you be able to adjust to that? But as I was home and having time and working on my book and getting involved, I was like, you know what? I could adjust to it.
Mhm.
It's it's what I bring up my book about, the freedom to choose what you want to do and feel that you've proven yourself, and you it's now it'll be more about what do you want to do, not having to prove yourself to other people. And those little gifts or prizes that you sort of talk about, they are addicting in a way.
Mhm.
We want to get those, and so it's hard to give that up, and it's hard to give up uh, particularly if you've been more in a public eye, and to suddenly not be in a public eye, and just sort of find your pleasure from other types of things that are maybe more under the radar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not easy,
No, it's
because
not easy.
there is this training that we get, like, we're
Yes.
trained to,
Yes.
and, it is an expansion, right? As you say, it's like
It's
it's
an
an
expansion.
expansion of
Yes.
development, of personal development, of growth, to be able to be okay and feel okay without all of the validation,
Right.
the
With all
external validation,
the
right? It goes
external,
from,
without the
and this is
external validation.
right?
Yes.
And now
Right.
you're talking
Exactly.
about from eyesight to
Yes.
insight. This is
Insight.
the
Yes.
insight because it is an inside job
It is. It's an
to
inside job.
cultivate within.
Yes. And one of the points I make in my book is that I realize that people who age well, if you want to call it that, they feel fulfilled in their later years. And I mention him in my book. I have a friend, George, and he's just turned 98, and he's incredible. And what it is it's not just about people's health or their level of affluence, or their if they've had a loss. Those are difficult. They can be difficult things to deal with, but it's a matter of that choosing to be empowered, to have intention in your life, to not just be passive about what happens to you, but to say, okay, this thing is happening, but I'm going to make the best of it. And I feel like I did a good job with that, with my own injury. It's Everybody said, "Oh my goodness, that's awful. Oh, it's terrible, and oh, you must be so upset." And I was like, I am upset, but I'm kind of looking at this as sort of an opportunity to go inward and think about who I really am. And that's people who live vibrantly to later ages, they tend to do that. It's not that they don't have difficulties in their lives, but when they do have it, they sort of take a perspective of, okay, this is part of the life experience, and how can I, move beyond it, or how can I still find joy in the face of it?
Mhm. And when the message that you got, "Oh, this is so terrible," it makes me think of the parable that so many have heard about the man who has a horse and the horse runs away and the neighbor says, "Oh, how
Exactly.
that's
Yes,
terrible." And then it brings home 6 horses, and it goes on and on and
exactly.
on.
That's
And the
absolutely what it
right?
is.
And the
Yes.
man's response
Mhm.
is maybe yes, maybe no. And
Yes.
so, and I think with age and the wisdom that goes with age, we can learn to do that more. And that's where you talk right about how there is more, tends to be more emotional resilience
Right.
as people age and people progress because they've just experienced. It makes me think of my grandmother who lived like 1 to 2 months shy of 105.
Wow. Yeah.
And she was born in 1911 in in Europe. And what she saw and what she went through in her life, and she
Yeah.
was the most resilient person we had, like, any of us had ever seen. It's like, oh yeah, well, that's what happens. And she'd laugh through things, and she
Right.
would just keep going because she experienced so much.
Yes. And I find that I also have patients who, I don't know if you want to say, they don't age as well. What happens is not everybody does have the ability to make a choice to try to be more resilient, or um, to be actively embracing aging rather than being a victim of aging. But not everybody has the motivation, or the self-awareness, or the desire down deep. Again, a lot of people, it's that thing about just feeling comfortable with who they are at that moment, and they really, it's too frightening for them to think about it, going into another role or changing their attitude, and everybody around them expects them to behave or be in a certain role. So for them to think about expanding a little bit, is frightening to them, and even things like illness, like to think of not being ill, for some people that becomes their identity,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't think about the fact that, hey, I'm ill, but these other good things are happening, or how can I look at some other good things in my life?
And then there's this time, right? This time perspective of, oh, it's too late. It's too late.
Yes,
I'm too old. And I love the George Eliot quote that you put in here, which is, "It's never too late to become what you might have been." Right? Like,
exactly.
and look at you, an author at 65, 64,
Yes,
right? An author,
yes.
and you didn't think that, you thought like, no,
I thought, like, no, yes. When Peggy said, you should write these in a book, these observations and insights. And I said, no, I'm not a writer. I can't do that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And then when I sat down to do it, it was like, wow, okay, feels good.
hmm
And what's very interesting to me is my kids. I have two daughters, and they're both around 30. And so there's a lot of, periodically, a lot of 30-year-old ish folks in my house. And my girls pointed out how even at 30, it starts very early on about feeling like you don't have enough time. Even at
hmm
30, people are feeling, okay, if I don't get this done, if I don't know what I'm doing at a certain point, it's too late to change my path. Um, and that follows people along. But it starts very early on. And so the farther people, I was thinking about this today actually, that when children, we are aging from the day we're born, but
hmm
children who are very young, up until around the time they go to school, everything's expanding, everything's just bigger and better, and the world is their oyster, and they can do anything, and things are so exciting. And then at a certain point, once kids are in school, they start to have limitations put on them about, okay, you only have a certain level of intelligence, so you'd be good at this or that, or you have a certain level of athletic expertise, so you can be on this team or you can't be on this team. So very early on, they're pigeonholed into sort of, what are you going to be good at or not good at, or what are you going to be able to accomplish in your life or not accomplish. And around, it used to be a little bit earlier, maybe it's around 25, 30 these days, kids are feeling like, okay, I'm an adult now. And they have that feeling already of things contracting in their lives, not
hmm
necessarily expanding in terms of opportunities. Now, granted, not everybody feels that way, but there's that sense fairly early on in our society of, I've got to get my act together, or else I'm not going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish.
Right. And I agree. And you talk about, there is not one boat and there's not one timeline. Like, there's just,
Exactly.
it's or one deadline.
Right.
It's so, we make this up. Well, I mean,
We
that's not
do
true.
make this
Well,
up.
we make up. Well, society and the messaging is who makes up the story. We have a
Exactly. Yes.
choice. We have a choice
We have a
about whether we
choice.
step into that story or we actually expand beyond it.
Exactly. And part of it is, and what I hope to do with this book also is, part of it is self awareness about it. A lot of people don't even realize that that's the case. They they're not, so they have to first, there has to be some self awareness about, okay, maybe there is another way to think, or maybe what society thinks about me isn't exactly right, and I can do something else or be something else. And sort of looking at themselves and saying, whoa, actually, what would I want? Is there anything I want differently? And Because I talk about those blind spots. We have limiting beliefs that act as blind spots. And we can't see. I never thought I could be an author. In fact, I always thought I was terrible at writing. And partly because some other family members were actually great at writing. And I was so science oriented, I never really developed that side of myself. So to see that there was a part of me that was coming out that was completely unexpected, but it was exciting.
hmm hmm Yeah, there's so much that we all have so
And
much in
everybody
us.
has potential. That's the
Everybody has
thing.
potential.
There is so much potential within all of us. And it's a matter of taking those steps to try to see that potential within ourselves. Because a lot of times you can't depend on other people to see it.
Hmm.
It has to be, like you said, an inside job.
Well, and to listen, to tune inward,
To tune
and
inward,
what
yes.
I wrote down was, as I was reading your book, is the stirrings of the soul, right? That it's like this,
Yeah.
what is coming through us, what wants to come out. And so, what was that process for you? That stirring of that calling that you were feeling, even though it
Yes.
didn't make sense. Didn't make
Right.
sense, but you still were feeling it.
Well, it's interesting because I had been feeling for a while that I had this calling of uplifting those around me. And particularly in this world right now, particularly ever since COVID-19, there's just been a lot of people have a lot of uncertainty or a sense of instability in the world of all different sorts, political, environmental, just many things happening. And so um, I felt that part of my purpose in life was to be my best self and then uplift those around me. And I had actually thought of it consciously but I thought, okay, it's limited to my family and my patients. But I did think about the fact, like, I really like doing this, but I never thought about uplifting the world or inspiring people around me in any way beyond just, again, my little circle of family or friends or the office. So, well, I say it's an inside job, but sometimes you do need other people. So working with Peggy, or if you're coaching your clients, it does help someone else for someone else to look and say, "Hey, you can do this. I
Hmm.
I see it in you."
Hmm.
And that was the big story, of course, was with Helen Keller. Anne Sullivan saw the potential within her, and so I feel blessed that I had someone that I could speak with and who saw the potential in me. Um, and I saw potential in myself, but I didn't really know what to do about it. So it is helpful when someone does help, see what your potential is. It helps you see what your potential is. But not everybody has that. So it takes sometimes deep introspection.
Hmm.
And actually, prior to me meeting Dr. Peggy, I had been doing a lot of self work. I talk in my book about the practices that I have of gratitude and meditation and walking. Um, Partly because I always have had this feeling like I want to live life to its fullest, and how can I be my best self? And so I did have a little bit of a feeling that I was in this sort of roles that I was playing, but that there was more to it.
Hmm.
But I just didn't know what that more was. And that was part of my own personal journey. And so it's interesting how it's just all fitting together, that then I wrote the book, and then I injured my arm, which made me see the positives of everything, and how was I going to take a negative event and make something positive of it, and how can I
Hmm.
use that as a growing, as a growth opportunity.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah, I resonate with the knowing, a feeling that there's more, even when you
yes,
don't know what it is. And I think
yeah,
that's for people to listen to that, because we all like to know. We don't like uncertainty. It's like, okay, if I'm going to do something different, then what is it? And how am I going to get there?
yes,
And my experience and experience with clients, and it sounds like yours as well, is it often comes in a feeling that is formless. I mean, sometimes it
mm,
comes to people like, I want to save animals, or I
right,
want to, like, it does come that way. It can come that
yes,
way.
it can come that
It
way.
can come
Yes,
that way.
yeah,
And for a lot of us, it doesn't. And that's where well, I don't really know what it is, so I'm just not going to focus on it, but
Right.
allow, like as you with the
Hmm.
practices of journaling, as you write about, and of
Yes.
meditating, and of walking, and being in nature. My experience was just to continue to try to allow
Allowing.
that feeling and to be aware, as you say, of that feeling and write and like see what comes out, because it's not just a feeling. It's something that is
It
trying to
is
take
something.
form and be
Yeah.
heard.
Yes. Yes. And it's been an exciting thing for me, a process, and I see it happen with other people too, is that feeling that there is something. And I've gotten some great feedback from some readers and patients who are in their 80s and feeling like so inspired to go after what is that something, because many people feel that way. Um, Not everybody feels that way, but many people do. And it is a sign to yourself to say, okay, let's dig in a little deeper. Let's do some self introspection. It's awareness. Awareness is huge. Also, being non-judgmental about yourself. Like, don't judge yourself. Well, I should have done this before. I made bad decisions, and now it's going to be more difficult. Judging doesn't help at all. You have to forgive yourself and start from now, and what can you do now, and give yourself permission to look into internally, like,
Hmm.
what do you really want to be, or is there another part of you that wants to expand? Maybe you don't want to be anything different, you just want to maybe do more, or feel more at ease, or
Hmm.
have more friendships in your life, or play more golf. you know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very personal.
It is very personal. You've you've highlighted the limiting beliefs that we most of us carry. Um,
Yes.
a layer of that, or a cousin of that that you talk about, is scarcity, right?
Mm,
The scarcity mindset.
yes.
And just as it is from constriction to expansion, with scarcity, is going from scarcity to a scarcity mindset to more an abundant
Abundance
mindset.
mindset.
Abundance, yeah. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about how you see that.
Well, that's actually something that is a huge issue for, I would say, I don't know if I'd say most people, but many, many people, is that scarcity mindset. And it's interesting. It actually cuts across all economic levels. People can have a scarcity mindset of, it's not just about money. It can be about money, certainly, but it can be an impoverished person who feels that they don't have money, but there's plenty of very affluent people who feel scarcity and that they never have enough. And I think it was Ted Turner famously said that, it was never enough. So even at 10 million, he didn't have enough, because he was comparing himself to people who had, 100 million. And so that whole thing, that comparison is the thief of joy. Um, and but scarcity also comes into play in terms of not having enough love, or not having enough intelligence, or people are always worried they don't have enough of things. And a lot of it does come from comparing. As we grow up, we're automatically being compared. That, probably, you compare yourself to your neighbors, and in school, you're being compared to all the other students. You're being graded and you're compared, and you have a specific spot in terms of where you're sit intelligence wise in the
Right,
class.
your ranking, like
You
where
have
you
a
are ranked.
ranking.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this feeling of like, oh, you're not enough, because unless you're the very top one, there's always somebody more, and you weren't enough to be that top person. So we many people go through their lives with a scarcity mindset, and it's, I think, really healthy to try to change over to an abundance mindset. And again, abundance is not just about money. It's an abundance of joy, of love, of ease, of feeling valuable. And sometimes at first, it's the with the gratitude, you have to take some time and say, what am I happy about? Because if someone is feeling really discouraged or depressed, or they've just had a loss, or they've had a severe medical diagnosis, significant medical diagnosis, it's hard to find abundance at those moments.
Hmm.
So it sometimes takes really taking some quiet time in those, and in those different settings of meditation, being in nature, journaling, prayer, uh, eh, just sitting quietly and breathing is it's important to realize the abundance in your life, and that's part of the whole point of that gratitude
Hmm. Hmm.
every day.
Well, and this takes me to the mind's eye
Yes,
and the power of visualizing. So one
yes.
aspect of this is the as is the gratitude and realizing what we do have
Hmm.
rather than what we don't.
Exactly.
And then visualization, right? And going
Yes,
within and visualizing the having, whatever it is, as a
exactly.
right. And so how have you found that works?
That's, to me, the whole thing with visualization is really fascinating because um, there's what I found really interesting is there's a lot of the physicists these days in quantum physics actually are very supportive, and have a lot of scientific data that supports how visualizing works from an energetic perspective. It's really fascinating. But from just a practical perspective and from a neuroscience perspective, if we want something to occur in our lives, we have to see it as possible. And what people don't realize is that we are much more powerful than we realize in terms of how we think and behave creates our reality. So, and this is independent of, belief systems, or if you're a scientist or not a scientist. You don't even have to understand all the different reasons why that might be so. But we all do know that if you have a negative attitude that it probably won't work out, then there's a good chance it won't. And if you going with like, oh, it always works out and it's going to work out, that a lot of times it does. So if if you want to see some changes in your life, and you don't even care about why it works, there is a huge value to seeing that abundance or seeing those changes or
Hmm.
having a vision. I had a vision of my book coming out, and I was seeing it on Amazon, and I saw it being sold, and I saw it being a bestseller. And so I mean, who knows? But here it is.
There it
So
is. Yes.
yeah, and here
Yeah.
it is. Right.
Yeah.
So put it this way: if you don't visualize something, it's less likely to happen. It will maybe never happen. It may happen anyway, even if you don't visualize it. Maybe it will.
Hmm.
But the fact is, there's a lot of reasons why visualization is so powerful, and
Right. Right. And it's like one of the, and it's been around for a long time with high performance athletes and performers,
absolutely, yes,
right? Gold
yes,
medalists, world champions. Like there's
yes,
a reason that, and there have been studies about shooting 100 baskets with a basketball and shooting 100 in your head. And
exactly.
the data is,
Oh, I love it.
it's
Yeah.
astonishing. Yeah.
And another one Joe Dispenza likes to talk about is having piano players learn a song and practice the song in their head and picture their fingers moving, and that they were just as accomplished as playing the piece that someone who had actually played it in real life. So,
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
fact, as a surgeon, a lot of surgeons, I talk about this in the book, we also do visualization in advance, and it's become kind of a ritual
Hmm.
where I go through in my mind the surgery the day before. It's something, it's not that it's a necessary thing, but it's just knowing, okay, this is going to be successful. Everything's going to go great. It's like an Olympic athlete. Every time they have a visualization, it's going to be successful. And so just from a sort of physiology perspective, all your nerves and neurons and all the little molecules in your body are all cooperating for that to happen. Is very,
Hmm.
very fascinating.
So as you have worked with so many people in their 80s, their 90s, their hundreds, and
Yes.
you've talked about those that age well versus those that
Mhm.
do less so, what are the characteristics that listeners should be thinking about, right? Cultivating in themselves. A few
So,
characteristics of those that age
okay.
well.
Mhm. So the big one is having a good attitude, choosing to see things from a positive perspective. So if something happens, to choose to consciously see it in a positive way, or how can you actively manage it versus just passively allow things to happen. So it's people who actively take charge of their lives, or and who consciously make choices about what is going to make them happy. And of course, always it's helpful to eat well, exercise, don't smoke, do all those right things. But being consciously engage is really important. Engage in those around you, engage in being curious, um, seeking more, seeking expansion as opposed to accepting contraction or
Hmm.
decline. Seek to expand no matter how old you
Hmm.
are, and know
Hmm.
that there's still more to be experienced. And I think I commented that even if someone has a year to live, that's a year, that's a lot of days of experience still to live. And
Yeah.
so being able to every day say, okay, what can I do today that's going to make me feel good today? And and of course, there's always exceptions. We all know of some, the cranky 90-year-old or the cranky 98-year-old curmudgeon who lived a very long life despite having a bad attitude. So
Yeah.
nothing's 100%
Yeah.
in our
That,
lives.
that
So,
archetype does, yes, that
yeah,
certainly exists, but we're
yeah.
talking about the numbers, right? We're
We're
talking
talking
about,
about the numbers, right?
yeah.
There's always exceptions. Nothing's 100%. So we're
Yeah.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own personal journey.
Yeah.
But really, choosing to have your perspective on life and how you choose to live your life is really, really critical. And so choosing to see it from an empowered, positive way, to be optimistic, to be enthusiastic, to embrace change and see transitions as a possibility for growth rather than see them as
Hmm.
something to fear. Uh,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
tough one,
Easier said
and
than
so
done.
important. Yeah, it's so important is embracing the uncertainty. So hard for us to do.
It's very hard for us to do. Yeah. Yeah.
As we wind down here, and you've led us to this, is for someone listening is in a stuck spot, is in a transition, one either chosen or not chosen. A lot of times they're not chosen,
Mm, yeah.
and is scared and uncertain. What's like one thing, like just one thing to start?
The one thing to start is to sit quietly and go inward and think about what makes you happy. What is it that makes you feel elevated, even just a little bit? And it's very hard if someone's depressed or they've had a big loss. Obviously, if something's really in a crisis, they can't even get their mind wrapped around that at all. Sometimes you have to move through an acute crisis or acute grief to get to a point of even being able to think clearly enough to look inward at all. But just taking a moment to have honesty with yourself and write things, it helps to write things down and just come up with what are a few things that make you happy, and then think and then having 3 things that you're grateful for. So finding 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Because I love the story of Dr. Joe Vitale, who was homeless, and he found a pencil, and he was desperate, he was homeless, but he took that pencil and he said, wow, I have a pencil. Think of all the things I can do with my pencil. I can write a grocery list, I can write a letter. And then he says I could commit suicide note because he was feeling very down. So he jokes about it, but it was a very serious time in his life. But if you can look to inward and say, what can you be grateful for and what things would make me happy? That's a first step.
Mm-hmm.
And being honest with yourself about it, not what someone else would want from you, but really
Yes.
100% honest.
Yes. And to what you're making me think of to add to that is the older we are, the older you are, you have earned the right to stop listening to what everyone else says you should do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you've earned the right.
You've earned that right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And in fact, I say that to patients. I'm like, you've earned the right.
Yeah.
You've earned the right to be a little cranky today if you want, or you've earned the right to have sleep in if you want. And those are just minor day-to-day things, but you've earned that right to be who you want to be in this life.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Durga, look, you're doing it. You have a book, soon to be bestseller. You're on the circuit.
It actually is a bestseller.
Yeah. It's officially a bestseller.
Yeah, it's international bestseller on Amazon, Canada and US.
Congratulations. That wasn't in the intro. Okay, we need to add that to the intro. Okay. Not just a book, international bestseller. Oh, I thought you were just continuing to manifest. It literally already happened.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's happening. It's happening. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're not going to have time for surgery anymore. Like that's going to be the irony, right? Sorry, guys. Got to cancel all my surgery. I'm speaking. I'm touring. Yeah. So tell everyone where they can, the website, where they can get the book and where they can learn more about having more conversations with you or listening to you.
Okay, great. Well, my website is durgalarkinmd.com. And I'd love to have you visit my website there, and you can find more information about me and my book. And also, you can follow me on social media, Dr. Durga Larkin for both Facebook and at Dr. Durga Larkin for Instagram. So, and I share insights and I talk about share events, speaking engagements, but I like to share some of that wisdom and talking points that come up and inspirations.
Wonderful. The next act. It's well underway.
Yes,
well underway.
Yes. Yes. And it's an exciting journey. This journey has been very, very exciting, and I feel very grateful. So. And
for those who are not watching this, Dr. Durga is lit up and glowing as she is saying that. It's real. It's awesome.
It is real.
Yeah.
It is funny. People say, "Oh, you look good, Lily. What's going on?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm feeling good. I'm grateful. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on today.
Dr. Durga is an expander for us all. It's never too late to pivot, to find greater meaning, an expanded version of your identity, and to realize that you are enough as you are for who you are. What a conversation. Here are 5 key takeaways. Number 1, aging is not decline, it's expansion. Some parts of the brain may slow, but wisdom, resilience, and perspective deepen. You can't rush that. You earn it. Number 2, your identity is bigger than your title. You are not just your role, your job, or your productivity. When those shift, you don't disappear. you evolve. Number 3, transitions are invitations, not punishments. Whether chosen or forced, change can expand you if you allow it to. Number 4, scarcity is learned, abundance is cultivated. Gratitude, intention, and awareness help shift you from not enough to more than enough. And number 5, it's never too late to become who you might have been. Not at 30, not at 65, not at 85. Expansion is always available. Take that in, everyone, no matter who you are, where you are, how old you are. There are opportunities for growth, for change, for expanded identity, and for possibility. Let us all try to lean into that together. We are interested in what you think about this episode, so please feel free to leave us a comment at Dr. Dan Peters on Instagram or reply to any of our social posts. If you're interested in a coaching session with me, go to www.drdanpeters.com and leave me a message on the contact page. I'd love to hear from you and learn more about your goals and support you on your journey. Please share this episode with everyone and anyone you think will benefit. Thank you for your 5-star reviews, for being a part of this amazing community, and for subscribing. And as always, we have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.